immediate access to the World Information Network. Data relays, known as eddies, transmit information directly to an individual's cranium.
So, I just wanted to show that. I'm going to intersperse this 90s Outer Limits episode where everyone in society is tied into this AI Neuralink hive mind. And they get infected with a virus where it just makes them collect as much useless information as possible. What this video is really going to be about is life after death. Life after death. This is like a common phrase or concept in pop culture, life after death. But I was thinking, what if it means, rather than life after like the event of death, what if it means life after death, as in what you're experiencing now is actually death, and what comes after what you're experiencing now is life. Life after death. What does this mean? Luke 9:60. Jesus said unto him, let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of God. Jesus said unto him, let the dead bury their dead. The unaware, they're not aware, they're dead. The people here, let the dead bury their dead. Huh, interesting. We've also got arguably the greatest record of all time playing in the background. I feel like I could make like a dance video, like an hour-long video just dancing to this record, and it would be good enough that it would be entertaining to actually watch the whole time. Luke 10:28. And he answering said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. Do this, and thou shalt live. Well, isn't he living now? Isn't he alive now? No, apparently not. But if he does this, he shall live. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are as graves which appear not. Ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. The scribes and the Pharisees are as graves, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. As in, the scribes and the Pharisees are dead. They're dead bodies. And the people around them in the city and in the temple don't know that they're dead. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. They're dead. It's like the Sixth Sense. They don't know they're dead. People don't know they're dead. Enter ye in at the strait gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life. And few there be that find it. Well, isn't this life? Why do we have to find life? Why is it so hard to find? Why is strait the gate, and narrow the way which leadeth unto life? So if this is our instruction, then we're looking for life, the way to life. We're not there yet.
Get information. I mean, how can all this be happening? It's like we're in hell or something. No. It's like we're in hell or something. No. It's Hill Valley, although I can imagine hell being much worse. No, it's Hill Valley, although I can imagine hell being much worse.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. You can do anything you want. Eat from any tree. You can do anything you want. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. In the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. He doesn't say, When you eat it 100 years later, you're going to die. And, God tells the truth. He says, in the day that you eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. That same day, in the day. So the day they ate the fruit and were cast out of the garden, they surely died. Because that's what God said. In the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. So as soon as they're cast out of the garden to the east of Eden, they're dead already. Not 100 years later. That's when they're born. But in the day that thou eatest thereof, in the day thou shalt surely die. Genesis 3:2, good old skulls and bones. And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So you see, Adam and Eve, they only ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They never ate from the tree of life. Our progenitors, our forefathers, they never ate from the tree of life. Only the tree that in the day they eat thereof, they shall surely die. The tree of death, the knowledge of good and evil. They never ate from the tree of life. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So they're cast out east of the garden, and on the east gate of the garden, he puts a flaming sword and a cherubim to keep the way of the tree of life. So if he casts them out to the east, so from where we are, the garden, spiritually at least, is west from us, in the direction of the setting sun, because it is guarded at the east gate, the eastern gate, where you're born again, eastern. So that means we would have to be traveling west to approach the east gate of Eden. We're east of Eden, we'd have to travel west to approach the east gate of Eden, and that's where the tree of life is. So to approach life, we travel west, spiritually at least. And to me, this represents the setting sun, the dying sun, where it goes to rest in its tabernacle, true reality, where the sun goes to rest in its tabernacle, the tabernacle of the sun. The tabernacle is a model of reality. So in the west, back into the garden, the tabernacle of the sun, the true reality. So that's what this represents to me, is that as we travel west, the setting sun, as we approach what we believe to be death, we are actually approaching life, the tree of life, and the tabernacle of the sun, the true reality. And is this the true secret of Skull and Bones? Why their number is 322, their motto is 322. Not that ye shall be gods, or has become as one of us, but that actually this is death. That's why it's a skull and crossbones, 322, skull and bones. That's the real secret, that this is death, not life. And Psalm 19 describes the tabernacle of the sun. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. So there's information coming from the heavens and the firmament. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun. This is a pre-echo of Christ, obviously. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. Christ is the strong man that comes into the strong man's house. Satan binds the strong man and spoils his house. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. It's kind of hard to imagine that set up on a globe. I thought it was interesting that in this episode, the AI hive mind control pylons look exactly like the Seattle Space Needle. Seattle Space Needle, mind controlling everyone.
We quantify our world in order to learn. We break it down into facts, numbers, information. But how far did we go before we destroy its mystery?
Fear is the control in this society or system or civilization or reality we live in, whatever you want to call this experience we have collectively. In it, fear is the control. Fear makes you do things that you wouldn't do if you were making a conscious choice. So the fear forces you into unconsciousness. And this system makes you afraid of lots of things, but ultimately, at the root of all those various fears is death. On the face of it, it is presented as scarcity, which you are encouraged to fear. Scarcity is the impetus to act unnaturally and callously, carelessly, or subserviently. Scarcity of time or food, not enough water, not enough space, not enough attention, not enough money, not enough stuff. But it all stems from this fear of death. If you don't do what you have to do, if you don't have enough food or space or money, if you don't have enough stuff, you're going to die. So fear is the control. And all the other ugly manifestations of hate and violence and neglect proceed from that root of fear. You will engage in violence or violence through depriving someone else because that's just the way the world works, right? It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you're wearing milk-bone underwear. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to hurt anyone, but you have to do whatever you have to do or you'll die. So all of our problems really stem from that fear. Fear is the root of violence, and death is the seed of fear. So the reason you might have to kill someone is ultimately always going to be so I don't die. When you plant that seed, death, it always produces more death. That's just common sense. Like begets like. Fear grows up into more fear. The fruit of fear is always going to be death. The wages of sin is death. So the ultimate sin is fear. Unconscious fear is a sin. Reacting rather than acting independently is a sin. Not choosing, denying your free will, denying that you are responsible for your reality is the ultimate sin against your Creator, in whose image you were made.
No, there's a predominance of the number 7 in Social Security numbers over the past 61 years. The Social Security numbers should have a random distribution. I'm fine. But it is interesting. Digit 7. It is interesting. Digit 7. 124, 627 hairs. I counted. No, because I can't, So I counted. I know. What? 627 hairs. Here's somebody.
Because in reality, death is impossible. Or at least our concept of death is impossible. Because our concept of death is no experience. Nothing. Which obviously is unimaginable to a conscious awareness. Because all there is to awareness is experience. So any imagination of death, even if it is just of blackness and silence, is still an experience of blackness and silence. It is not no experience. So that concept of death is something you will never experience. Awareness isn't for a period of time and then it goes away. Awareness is outside of time, above time. It either is or it isn't. It can't die and have no experience. Just because you can't remember before or after your life makes no difference at all. You're aware now, right now, and it's always going to be now. Awareness isn't for a certain length of time. That's an illusion. That doesn't exist. Whether you remember or not, all that exists is experience, now. Consciousness is primary, and physicality in time is an illusion. Your awareness alone proves this. The fact that you can even ask these questions, your self-awareness, proves that consciousness is primary and time is an illusion. That's why the most fundamental inversion or programming or lie is that you don't exist. Consciousness is an illusion, and physicality and time is primary. You don't really exist. Awareness, consciousness, is just a transitory illusion caused by random interactions of chemicals and subatomic particles. But observed by whom? Described by what? It's false. That's false. And you can prove it the other way around too. You can also prove that consciousness is primary and physicality in time is an illusion backwards by reasoning from within the materialist paradigm. Because the materialist paradigm, the belief in the primacy of physicality and the illusion of consciousness, because that's what the materialist paradigm is, a belief in physicality and time and an unbelief in primary consciousness. That materialist paradigm must obey the laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics, the law of entropy. All systems must evolve towards chaos, disintegrating. Energy must always dissipate and organization break down as you move forward in time.
Near the end, Stanley has calculated 197 different shades of red and go on. That's what this virus does. It makes you curious, but to learn how extreme. It makes you curious, but to learn how extreme. That's what this virus does. It only uploading millions of bits of useless data. Just reached a limit this morning. The virus is spreading wide. The stream is flooding.
The laws of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, dictates that all systems must evolve towards chaos, disintegrating. Energy must always dissipate and organization break down as you move forward in time. But the reality we observe breaks these laws, and the materialist paradigm has no explanation for that. If the universe starts with a Big Bang, chaotic explosion, it could never evolve into more and more complex systems. It could only become more dispersed and chaotic. Like the argument of a tornado ripping through a junkyard and through pure random chance assembling a fully functional 747 jet plane. And not just the plane, but the pilot as well. So even though the laws of physics as they appear to operate as physicality and time dictate that chaos, disorder, and loss of energy must increase over time, and organization complexity decrease over time, instead we observe the exact opposite. In complete violation of the laws of physicality, we see awesomely complex systems of organization. Atomic, magnetic, chemical, ecological systems, weather systems, and biological systems, all interlocking perfectly like the gears and systems of a jet airplane to form one awesome and unimaginably complex, holistic system to act as a platform for consciousness, this awesomely complex system of life to act as a platform for consciousness. And not only does conscious awareness emerge from and sit atop this platform of the physical environment in flagrant violation of the laws of physics, but a new individuated consciousness which manifests as a completely new, unique, unimaginably complex genetic sequence at the moment of conception, assembles a physical body around itself with material from the environment drawn up from the ground into the mother's womb and coalescing into a unique human form, and then proceeds to alter and transform the physical environment that the individuated consciousness itself seemed to emerge from, further transform the environment. All of this is blatantly, outrageously impossible according to the mechanical laws of physicality and time. Conscious awareness destroys, completely violates the materialist paradigm.
Learn, because you made it love knowledge. No, it's not knowledge, it's just information, okay? And it's hungry, and it's using all of you to feed it as much information as it can. It doesn't matter how petty or useless or irrelevant the information is. And because it's not alive, it doesn't care about you. The stream will never be full until it can quantify everything. But you can't quantify everything. You can't quantify the world. You won't die trying. Practically every thought you have, every idea, every insight is all downloaded from that thing. It's not going to let you pull the plug. It is not going to let you want. It is not going to let you want. It's not going to let you pull the plug on. It is not going to let you want.
How can you know? How can you be sure?
Because I'm outside.
There is no organizing factor in the materialist paradigm which can account for the emergence of conscious awareness. This is because consciousness is not constrained by physicality. Conscious awareness is outside of the physical construct in time. Consciousness is the reality, and physicality in time is the illusion. The illusion of physicality in time proceeds from the reality of conscious choice, not the other way around. And logically, it can be no other way. Awareness simply is or is not. Awareness cannot exist within a period of time. A period of time can only exist within an awareness. You are not aware since or until. You are only aware now. And now is all there is. Awareness is all there is. And you are aware, period.
Dream. But you can't have dreams without challenges. The stream's taking all your dreams and didn't even give you knowledge in return. Just information. Information without meaning. Understanding. Context. It's useless. Restrictor. She's reading a shutdown command right into the screen. What's the matter? You don't want to look at my book? Restrictor. She's reading the shutdown command right into the screen. What's the matter? You don't want to look at my book? The stream doesn't want me to. Read it. Read it!
I think the way I drove so deep into thinking about this was, and I'm not recommending anyone do this or anything like that, I'm just relating my experience, what happened to me. And only a couple of people I told, always been told it's sick and disturbing. So I wouldn't recommend anyone do it, but just imagining really vivid like death scenarios. I think it started like when I was in solitary confinement for a month or something like that. And just imagine it over and over when there's no other stimulus, like sensory deprivation, just until it's like so vivid that it's really happening. And just having the realization that, like, yeah, you can imagine the moments leading up to it, but you can't imagine no experience. It's unimaginable. You can, even if you just imagine silence and darkness, there's always something after it. But then even after that, I would continue doing it for some reason. Less frequently over time, but later when I would do it, I know it sounds weird, but I feel like it made me behave better, like get myself under control. Because like it makes your ego go nuts, but like your core observer is unaffected. Nothing affects it. So it's a way to like get your like animal beast mind in check or something. It became to me. And I would call it the boo box. I mean, just to myself, but I'd call it the boo box. And it would kind of be like, yeah, just continue doing all different things. Like, I almost couldn't help it. It was just like automatic, unconscious sometimes. Especially if I had been feeling like out of control or angry or something. To the point where, I don't know, at some point I'd be like, if I was losing control, like out in the world, like nothing crazy, but just if I'm getting angry or just being vain, engaging in petty, vain thinking and anger or jealousy for a while. At first I just sit there, I'm like, get a load of this fucking dude. Just watch myself think, like, real piece of work, this fucking guy. But eventually, if I actually honk at someone, get mad, I'm like, hey, you want to go in the boo box? This is just me talking to myself. Like Jacob talking to my Esau. I'm like, you want to go in the boo box? He's like, I won't do it again. Does it again. I'm like, that's it. You're going in the boo box. He's like, nah, come on, man. We don't got to do that. I don't want to go in the boo box. I'm like, yeah, you're going in the boo box. It's going to hurt me more than it's going to, I have to go in there with you, but I'm sorry. He's like, nah, come on, man. I won't do it again. Don't put me in the boo box. I'm like, sorry, I got to do it.
The boo ball. The boo ball.
And it would be like some kind of weird punishment to myself to get myself under control, and that would be less and less over time, and I do feel like I got more under control. But again, I don't like recommend it to anyone. It just kind of happened to me. But I just think of that as my, like, you know, pick up your cross every day, crucified and ill every day, and and it also, for one thing, it does got me under better control, but also just I feel like totally burned out those like fear pathways in my brain, so I could just look at it without looking away really deep or something, because I just totally burned it out. And then at some point it seemed like automatic. Like if I did get angry through a day, it was like I was literally creating new virtual self-images. And when I got home, like as soon as I could quiet myself and meditate and lay down and shit, it would almost be like a few of them and like run through my mind automatically real quick. It's like killing off those like fake personas that were created that day or something. Like killing those virtual self-images off. It's really bizarre.
Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
Again, I'm not suggesting anyone do that. I realize it's disturbing, but life's disturbing. Sometimes you just gotta face it. Yeah, since our old concept of death is impossible, no experience, it is meaningless. In order for the concept of death to be meaningful, to be real, it must be something we can experience. Because experience is the only context in which awareness can exist. And since our consciousness operates in duality, black framing white, sadness framing joy, loss informing abundance, death must be the framing of life. Death is the context in which life can be experienced. In duality, death must represent the negative polarity of life. Life must be the truth of awareness, to contrast and be made meaningful by the illusion of death. Since reality is what is true and unchanging and provable, unreality, or what is not, must be all that is transient, impermanent, and false, or unprovable.
So you say we are in the Y machine, we are in Y, but Y is what is not. And this certainly is something, isn't it?
Since our self-awareness and the organizing force of consciousness prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that physicality in time is an illusion, is false, physicality in time must be analogous to the concept of death, in contrast to unlimited, unchanging truth of conscious awareness, being analogous to life. Life, representing the true reality, must be what is perfect and permanent, the organic environment, or heaven, or Eden. It must be what does add up, what does work, what is good. Where there is a perpetual excess of energy rather than a perpetual loss of energy. Reverse entropy. Energy must emanate from everywhere and be lost into a single point, rather than emanating from a single point and being lost into everywhere. But paradoxically, that perfect, unchanging awareness, life, exist within what is transient and false, death. True life can only grow on the matrix of illusory death. Death is what does not add up, what is not good, what cannot exist. Like a perpetual black hole, white hole energy system. In fact, the concept of life is not only contextualized by the concept of death, but one is meaningless and utterly inconceivable without the other. An experience of existence outside of this life, within death context, if death and Hades themselves were thrown into the lake of fire, so to speak, is impossible to speculate on, as it is currently above the definite boundaries of human comprehension, and certainly beyond the boundaries of human description.
Come back for you. I'll remind you of something. Something you once knew. That this world is not real. Come back. Come back with me. Come back.
Yes.
And this certainly is something, isn't it?